What's going on, everybody? Rick Del Santo here. This is the Pro Wrestling Wire podcast. I have a very special guest today in Mike Skyros. What's going on, my friend?
Oh, hey, what's up, Rick? Appreciate you having me on. You were talking about a special guest. I was like, is there someone else in the room with me? But I guess
no,
not.
man. No, man, it's you. It's you. So focus is on you today. We're going to be talking about you, your career, and all that stuff. And, I love to always, it might be sound like the most generic wrestling question in a podcast ever, but I'm always interested in how people got interested in the world of professional wrestling. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to professional wrestling, and I just remember that very first moment of seeing Roddy Piper on TV beat the crap out of some jobber. So I want to know what your moment was that made you discover professional wrestling and lured you in as a fan.
Yeah, man. I think that's kind of cool. Like mine's a little different than most people. I'm a '90s kid, but I don't know if it's just because my parents weren't interested in wrestling, or I didn't have anyone in my household that watched it. I would see it in passing, and I would hear things at school. But the first time I actually watched wrestling and it hooked me, I was on vacation in Niagara Falls. We were staying on the Canadian side and right by the strip. If anyone's ever been to Niagara Falls, Canada,
Yep.
There's a bunch of stores and stuff there. But one of the stores that used to be there is they had a WWF World store right there.
Oh,
It was
wow.
a restaurant and souvenir shop. It was really cool. They would do appearances and stuff there. But because I was staying at the hotel near there and they would advertise, we would get a little video loop from recent events going on. So the match that they were highlighting was the ladder match for the Undisputed Championship between Jeff Hardy and The Undertaker. And I had heard of The Undertaker. I didn't know that he was a biker now. And this Jeff Hardy guy, he had the cool hair. He did all these high flying moves. And the story of that match and the story of those two people that I saw in the ring hooked me immediately, and I was a fan of those guys from then, and I just had to get more.
Yeah. No, that's way different than I thought, to be honest with you. I wasn't sure roughly. It all depends on your age, you know what I mean? Because like I said, mine was Roddy Piper. My first live show was 4 years later, New Haven Coliseum, and it was a TV taping for Superstars, and that was like the premier show at the time. There was no Monday Night Raw, and the excitement just lured me in, and I was just kind of obsessed from there for the rest of my life, or for the next 40 years, So, let's see. When did you start reaching out and trying to find places to train, and decide that you wanted to do this with your life?
Yeah, so like a lot of kids my age that grew up in that time period, we would go out in the backyard, and it started out as a trampoline and it became a ring. And I don't recommend this to anyone, but we did it. We had our matches, and we did moves on each other, and that was cool for a while. But it got to a point where myself and a couple of my buddies that did that were like, what would it look like if we really gave this a shot? What if we got properly trained and just see what happened with it? So I did some research, and it was difficult because the school that I ended up at was not advertised well online, and the internet was a little different than it is now. This is like early 2010s, but
Okay.
Eventually, the local promotion was called 2CW, and on the 2CW website, there was a section that advertised wrestling training, and it was the Institute of Pro Wrestling by Zachary Springate, which is the school I started going in the fall of 2012. And I've been there ever since, and my main trainers have been Zachary Springate III and Isis FX. And I'm really fortunate to have ended up at the school I ended up at. They've taught me a lot, to say the least.
Well, what year did you say this was?
2012.
2012. Okay. I have found Zachary Springate III, right? Correct? That sounds, I don't know why that sounds so familiar to me, but it does. And of course, I'll probably pick it up and feel like an idiot once I realize who the hell it is. But so I have here 2014, you actually made your in-ring debut?
Yes.
Yeah. what was that like? Were you and what was the initial training like? Because I know I've been around wrestling long enough, been hanging around. I hang around at Paradise Alley. I watch a lot of the training, and
Yeah, of course.
sometimes you see new kids come in, and some of these guys don't want to come back after that first try. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
you were lured in the first immediately, or were you like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah. I mean, so I'm gonna elaborate on a couple of things you said here. First of all, Zachary Springate, he was trained by Killer Kowalski at Kowalski School in the mid late '90s. So he was
Okay,
there with guys like Wagner Brown. He was there with
right,
guys like Frankie Kazarian, Bo Douglas, who I'm sure you're very familiar with.
very,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, and he wrestled in the Northeast, New England, New York, Canada for years. Worked with a lot of different people. In terms of, and I'll help highlight Paradise Alley quick as well. Mario and Paul have put out a lot of great students out of there.
yeah,
I've wrestled quite a few of them, and uh, for the most part, I mean, you can't account for every single person, but everyone I've been in the ring with from there has been well trained, has been cool, has been easy to work with. So, quick little shout out to those guys. They're obviously doing something right over there. When it
yep,
came to my training, my memories are a little fuzzy from that time, but I I just remember being nervous, like not sure what to expect. Like I bought a pair of boots. I bought a pair of like just like generic tights. I'm like, do I need like wrestling gear to come here? And I remember my trainer was like, "What's this kid asking about wrestling gear?" But I had boots. I had gear just so I made sure like I had all my bases covered. Um, and there were a lot of different people that went through there that helped us all out. Brew Van Slyke being an early one that really got in the ring with us a lot early and taught us the fundamentals. The tough thing for me with the school is um, a lot of the fundamentals are not natural for me at all. Um, and I was not someone that caught on to things quickly. I was someone that had to do things over and over and over and over and over again until I learned it. So I'm I'm always amazed when I see some of the guys that come through my school or somewhere else that pick it up super quickly because it took me years to figure out. And as we get to, you spoke about my debut in 2014. Um, I was, it is hard to put into words how nervous I was. Like hand shaking nervous before I went through the curtain. But I was very fortunate. I was in there with, at the time, one of my best friends that named Jacoby Riddick, who had trained with me the whole time. One of the people I felt most comfortable with in the ring. I was in the ring with Locavita, who is also someone that played a hand in my training, who've been around for years, and they really, they were there for me to lean on. So my first match wasn't bad. I've gone back and watched it, and obviously I was very new, and I
hmm
had a lot to learn, but in terms of structurally and like concept wise, like those guys put me in a really good position to succeed.
right. I'm not a person that could stand in front of a crowd, so getting in front of a large group of people would scare the shit out of me, literally.
Oh my god,
So
yeah.
it's like I've been asked to cover ring announcing before, and I said, "There's no way you're going to get me to stand up in front of everybody." So I said, "I apologize. I politely declined." so,
It's a different feeling.
yeah, it is, and I'm not. I'm kind of on the shy side. You wouldn't be able to tell, but I spent years in radio as well, and prior to wrestling podcasting, that's just became part of what I did in 2019 after right during the pandemic. Was bored, you know what I mean? So and then it opened me up a lot more than opposed to that, but I still will not do that. I've done some commentating, but I will still never ever stand up in front of a group of people when asked. Though I actually did commentate for one of your matches, actually one of your matches at Paradise Alley. I
Which match?
believe you wrestled Jay Haru, if you remember correctly. Do you remember that
Oh yeah,
match?
yeah, yeah. Yes, I
Yes.
do.
Yeah, I did two
Yeah.
matches that night, and your match was one of them. So I was brought in briefly just to actually I since then have done more with them, but that was like kind of like really early on in me doing that. So I don't know if you ever knew about that, but I did, and I don't know if there's I've never seen the footage of it, so I don't know if how I did that particular evening. So, but
I have I have photos, and I might have had one of my buddies film it on my phone,
Right.
because I've seen footage. If I'm not mistaken, I mean this was years ago, so my memory might be fuzzy, but I believe we had like a brief conversation after the match,
Yeah,
about it.
probably.
So I
Yeah,
remember
it's
speaking to them. Yeah,
yeah, it's possible. I've asked for the footage since then, but since then I've done it probably 200 times. You know what I mean? So I feel
yeah.
way more confident with that. And so when did you end up at TOS?
Oh man, I'm gonna get to that, but I want to highlight something you said too. So,
Sure.
you spoke about radio and being in front of an audience.
Yep.
I was really lucky that when I was the whole time I was in college, I did 2 years at St. John's University in Queens, New York, and I did two
Oh
years
wow.
at the University at Buffalo in Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
The entire time I was there, I did college radio, and I got to interview some really cool people, like bands I really enjoyed, because I was like the rock slash metal guy, and that was one of the things that got me more comfortable with public speaking, doing interviews like this with you, and
Right.
speaking in front of crowds. It allows you to find your voice a little bit, and I'm very lucky that I only got asked to do commentary once. People don't
Hmm.
realize how hard commentary is either. That's such a hard job in
You have to
wrestling. I don't know if I could do it.
you have to talk constantly. You know what I mean? If especially there's been a couple times where I was the only man in the booth. Not it doesn't happen often, but also if the person next to you is not necessarily doing a great job, you're the one that's got to push forward and try to keep going. And it's not really an easy task because you have to continue to go and keeping up with a lot of moves. Obviously, in the modern era, people come up with fancy names for a lot of moves, right? In wrestling in the last 20 years. So literally one of the first things I go is, do you have any fancy names for moves that use it? You know what I mean? So I try to put those in my notes when before the show. You know what I mean? I always have that kind of conversation before the show. But I didn't know you were in the radio too. You did radio.
Yes.
That's really the most exciting. Like I absolutely loved doing radio, and I'd
Yeah.
like to really do it again for I'm looking to get back into actual professional radio for a while.
It's it's hard to explain to people that haven't done it, but you'll understand. It helps you appreciate the music more and just the flow of the show, and sometimes the songs you pick. It's like a wrestling match. Sometimes it takes you places that you don't necessarily expect in that short amount of time. And I don't want to use the word magical, but it's really a different type of feeling. And it let me really connect with a lot of the songs, the artists that I liked before, and a lot I didn't as well. So it's a very
Yeah.
valuable experience.
Yeah, I did I had two stints really, and then one of them was a community radio, and it was me and a buddy, and basically I was left to choose all the music, so I had to choose like 2 to 3 hours worth of music, and I have a vast record collection, lots of garage rock records in the 60s, the 80s, whatever, punk records. So it's and I try to always play something a little bit obscure. So each week I had to try to find 2 hours worth of music and then have some sort of conversation. And it was pleasurable and it was fun to get that experience and be able to say, hey, this is what I like and I want you all to hear it too, kind of a thing.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. And
To
it's
to
sorry.
go right ahead. Go
Nope,
right
you
ahead.
I had nothing else to say. Go ahead. So
All right. Well, I'm glad we could talk about that because I didn't know that about you, and I love getting to talk about my past experience in radio. Like as I mentioned, it contributed a lot to my skill set in wrestling, and even later on into some of the stuff when I got to present myself a little bit differently. A lot of the things I learned in radio played in. But to answer your question about TOS, test of strength wrestling. So in 2CW, a person that was on those shows quite a bit and was in a prominent position. I watched him have incredible matches with guys, Too Cold Scorpio being the first and foremost, Slick Wagner Brown.
mhm.
Obviously, the founder, the owner, the operator, main eventer, like whatever title you want to put with TOS, Slick Wagner Brown. So I knew him from there, and the bridge from me to him was, believe it or not, Jay Freddy, who also upstate New York guy, 2CW guy. I believe one time he offered us the opportunity to ride up with him, and myself and my tag team partner at the time, Kevin, ended up getting a spot. Wagner liked what we presented, and we just kept coming back. And eventually, that morphed into me becoming a single there. Once my tag partner moved away, I won uh, the
K1,
the
right?
yeah the K1. In when was it? It was early. I want to say 2019, but no, it was early 2020, right before the pandemic hit. Maybe like a month before the pandemic hit. I won that in a three-way with Brian Pillman Jr. and Sammy Diaz, and I literally went into that match. I was not expecting to win. I was expecting something else to happen. I don't know who I thought was going to win, but I didn't think it was me. So it was a shock. And that really was a big stepping stone for me in terms of getting to run with the ball a little bit, getting to wrestle a lot of bigger name opponents, and really seeing what I'm worth. And for a long time, I and the K1 and my opponents that I wrestled for the K1 carried those TOS main events.
Yeah. I believe the first time I saw you was during that time period. You were the champion, I believe. And if I
Yeah,
remember correctly, do you remember they ran a couple shows at a bar in Naugatuck, Connecticut? I think it
I
was
do.
Roots. Okay. So I lived in Bethany or Hamden, Connecticut at the time, and it was actually really close to Bethany, which was the connecting town to Naugatuck. It was literally a 10-minute drive. I just had to drive through the back roads and boom. And I never knew that they held wrestling at this show, but I think that's kind of around the time I first started coming around locally to a lot of shows. And that was the first time. And I was wildly impressed actually with what I saw because I had already met some guys like Don Kincaid and other such human beings at shows locally. And I just remember that I think that might have been my first TOS show ever, and I was wildly impressed. And that was the first time I saw you guys like Ichiban, who I think was pretty much in his infancy at the time, if I
Yes,
remember, and Ryan Frost as well, who's another to me.
yes,
He is a fantastic guy.
yes. He is salt of the earth,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, yeah, and he's one of those guys that at any time he always goes out of his way to say hello, to stop what he's doing and say hello and talk to you if he sees you randomly at a show, and that's awesome. He did that at the one and only AEW show I attended as well. So, no. Anyways,
Yes.
so what was it like? What's it like working there? Because it's like that's pretty much where I know you from. I've seen you obviously other places, through streaming. I see that you're a very busy human being out there, just constantly everywhere. And I think it's kind of awesome that a guy like you gets so much work.
I appreciate that. And Don Kincaid, you mentioned two of my favorite people, Don Kincaid and Ryan Frost, are two of the best human beings I've met through wrestling. So I'm very thankful that I crossed paths with them. In terms of TOS working there, it it was fun. There were a lot of times I could tell that TOS was throwing different things at me to test me to see how I would respond, to see how I would step up in a healthy
Mm-hmm.
way. They would throw an opponent at me. They're like, this guy's gonna make you step your game up and go up a level. Are you ready? And luckily, I was. I wasn't perfect there, and there were a lot of times I really had to earn the uh, the applause and the attention of the crowd. But I was happy to do that. It made me a much better wrestler over that time there.
Right. And you're living in upstate New York at Syracuse, correct? Is
Yes,
that's where
yes,
you're? That's a legit thing. That's not
yes.
kayfabe. Okay. All right. I don't
Syracuse,
know.
New York.
All right. Well, I mean,
I
one
get
of
it. I get it. No, but I'm from here.
the that's awesome. One of the greatest professional
Yeah.
wrestlers of all time is from there. Mike Rotunda. Um,
Yes, sir.
you know so I find it, what's it like in your area right now, as far as like, because independent wrestling is gigantic. I talk about this all the time. It's like there's wrestling several nights out of the week. There's multiple shows several times a day, all in the Northeast, Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, everywhere. And it's kind of like right now it's the greatest period for professional wrestling, because I mean, guys like yourself can keep busy Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just working shows, possibly multiple shows, particular days, whether it be Saturdays and Sundays and stuff like that. So I think it's like, what's it like in your area as far as wrestling goes?
It's in a bit of a transition period right now. So I mentioned 2CW a few times. And
Right.
for those of you who don't know, because wrestling is very regional, and I don't expect everyone to be caught up on the independents, but 2CW ran from about 2005 to about 2015. They
Okay.
toured the entire area of upstate New York. They drew everywhere they went. I wrestled in front of crowds of 1,900, 2,000, over 1,000, and 500, 600 nights many times. And I was in locker rooms with people like Hacksaw Jim Duggan, AJ Styles, Roddy Piper, Kevin Steen, Eddie Edwards, the Young Bucks, the Dudleys. I'll pick up these names I dropped, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But they were the stalwart and they were the best promotion in the time I've been wrestling, and even since, they're the promotion that got everything down. So they closed shop in 2015. Ever since then, it's tough because I don't like comparing to ECW, but it's the easiest example to compare to in the sense that they've almost become bigger since they closed.
Okay.
And they've left a shadow that is hard for a lot of places around here to step out of. There have been a couple places that have tried to run. There's a promotion that I am involved with as a talent called One Up Wrestling that has run shows nearby and has really tried to be the new place that is the haven for our guys to test themselves, to get their start, to do their thing. Because until then, there were a lot of cool promotions that let us Syracuse guys try our hand, TOS being one of them.
Right.
But we didn't really have our own spot in Syracuse, and I'm hoping that One Up can be our spot for our Syracuse guys to try, because people know about Syracuse University through the basketball and the football team. We have a rabid fan base for wrestling. We have a rabid fan base for sports. So I think as long as it is advertised well and we present people with something that gives them their money's worth for the ticket, this is a great wrestling town.
Right. Okay. That's awesome, because it's like I don't hear a lot from up there. I mean, I kind of keep up on a lot of stuff through the internet and try to keep up on as much as I can through podcasts and the internet. And I mean, I do follow a lot of wrestling throughout the entire country, a lot of independents. But it's like right now is like this craziest time for independent wrestling. And I mean, you've been on this platform before. You've been on IWTV before. There's groups like that are just such a great thing for independent wrestling. You know what I mean? That and there's so many different streaming networks. It's just, to me, it's kind of an amazing time for professional wrestling, for independent wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's tough because one of the reasons that, like I said, we didn't have our own promotion to necessarily call our own for the longest time. So
Right.
in terms of the guys from my area and the guys coming out of my school, we were kind of hired guns. Like we could get one booking, but to get multiple bookings at the same place and really ingrain ourselves in a promotion was not always easy. And to be honest, I'm the guy now that's the tenured guy that's bringing the guys from my area around. So it's on my shoulders to go to these places and do well, but also crack the door open so that people like Don Freeze, well, I'm not sure if you've seen, but he's incredible. People like David Coles, people like Corey Jackson and Ting of Black and Yellow can get on these shows and show people what they're about. That has fallen on me. So it's a little bit of a different responsibility. And it's on me to tell people like you about these guys that are in upstate New York that are incredible.
Right. I'm familiar with a couple of the names you mentioned, not every one of them, but but you've also, you've gone, so you're upstate New York. So you work a lot of, I think, in Massachusetts and New York a lot, correct? Is that
I
wrong?
do. It's a lot of New England, New York, and Pennsylvania, Jersey.
Yeah. So, man, you drive a lot. That means like you're just really busy, and gas ain't cheap right now either. So, no. So I think that's awesome. So that's awesome for your career, and that's really cool. But you also worked for another company out here that I really love and respect. I absolutely love the promoter Harry and Blood, Sweat, and Tears Wrestling. You've done a number of shows with them over the years, and I think that there's one that I wanted to mention. I believe it was. Shit. It was with Kylan King. It was a three-way match. Was it Kylan King and Flash, or was it Kylan King and Bobby Ocean? That's right. Okay. I made a highlight reel of that video not so long ago, and that name, Bobby, slipped my mind. And going back and watching it, because I used my handheld footage for that video, and I got to say, man, that was really, Blood, Sweat, and Tears has a thing for showcasing great professional wrestling, like really athletic professional wrestling. And you've been a part of that with guys like Kylon. Kylon's, to me, is like one of my favorites since, his debut. Another guy, like you said, churning out from Paradise Alley. And Bobby Ocean, that dude's just freaking amazing as well.
Yeah, those guys are both incredible. Kai is obviously the athleticism jumps off the page with him, but
Yeah.
he's really him and Flash as a tag team have really done a lot nationally. That's very cool for them. Bobby Ocean is a guy that if you see him, if you're around New England wrestling or if you've been around a little bit, you know how good Bobby Ocean is. But a lot of people still don't, which surprises me. Bobby is one of my favorite opponents, one of my toughest opponents, one of the guys I've learned the most from. I was very nervous to wrestle him because I don't know I've had experiences where guys have been around a while and it's really pulling teeth to have a match with them. And he's the opposite. He is a complete pro, very good dude. He's one of the people in wrestling that I do consider a friend. He works as hard as anyone I know. That match was really cool. Like that match, we were all on the same page. We really did something cool for the fans that night, and that is a match. Like every once in a while, I'll post something old from that match. Like I think that was the first time I did a gory special into like a Boston Crab, and I thought that was cool. So I loved wrestling those guys that night. And Harry is a wonderful guy. He's a very kind human being, and he's someone, you get a mixed bag with wrestlers and promoters, but Harry's a guy that I'm always happy to talk to. He's always trying to do different stuff with people, and he's a real good dude.
Yeah, I'm just going to say this because I know he's going to listen that Harry is the biggest pain in my ass. Okay. So he likes to bust my balls.
He hasn't called me an ounce of stress.
Yeah. No, I love Harry. He's a great guy, but he has a thing for ruffling my feathers on purpose. So, you also, now this match, I didn't get a chance to watch. Okay. But I heard about it, and I believe I heard about it from Matt DeCourt first, if my memory serves me correctly. And Matt, one of my very good friends as well, taking on Minoru Suzuki, Japanese legend. This dude's been around forever. Shoot wrestler, and of course, came up through, I believe, UWF back in the day, and of course New Japan and everywhere else. So this dude's an absolute legend. I want to know about this match and what the hell was it like going in there with somebody like this?
Oh my god, dude! This is 100% the match I get asked about the most on interviews and just in the locker room, and I love talking about it. I'm never gonna stop talking about it, so I'm glad people ask and people care. It was crazy because they told me very early that this match was going to happen, and I had to for months, and it was tough because I like to talk. But the promotion announced the match on, of all days, April Fool's Day, so it got a reaction online, but a lot of people were like, "Is this real? Like, is this legit?" And then they posted it days later, like, "No, this is happening." So it was nuts, dude. Someone that legitimately I'm a huge fan of, that I've watched for years. It was tough for me to get a headspace for that match for a while because I didn't think of it as something that was possible. Right. They messaged me, they're like, "Are you ready for the biggest match of your career?" I'm like, "Yes." What is it? Like, "You're gonna wrestle Suzuki." I'm like, You're messing with me." That's unbelievable. So, man, again, a guy that I don't care how old he is. He fought Shamrock. He fought Boss Rutan. He's a bad man. I don't care what age he is. And if he pisses you off, I found out just by when I wrestled with him, the way he moves in his grappling and the way he moves on the mat, he is very much a problem. I was very fortunate. He was a complete professional. He is someone that was very giving in the match. If you are someone that knows what to look for, I think you'll see that. He posted me on his Instagram afterwards. Like he asked me to take a picture with him, which was wild. These are things that I I treasure very deeply. And I talked to you earlier when I went out for my first match, and I was like, this. Now, I care a ton about my wrestling, and I get anxious in the sense of like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to go out there. I'm ready. But I don't get like nervous. But that match, I was shaking nervous before I went out through that curtain because I knew how big this was.
Right.
And sitting in the corner as his music hit and he came to the ring was such a surreal feeling. I could not believe that this was happening to me, and I was on cloud nine. The boys, well, most of the boys that didn't, except for the few that tried to politic that match away from me, but the rest of the guys in my area and even different places that I've been around the country were very supportive, and it was just such a positive day. I really like I said, I treasure that day, and I hope everyone gets that experience of getting to wrestle someone they legitimately looked up to and having it be as cool as it was for me.
That's amazing. That really is
Yeah,
because, I've followed him on and off through years, wherever I saw him. And I did see him, I think it was UWF or UWFI back in the day. I used to get those videotapes from when I was younger.
yeah.
And to watch him, and then what is he, 50 something years old? Almost 60 or something like that. He's pretty
I
up there
think
in
he's
age, right?
50. I want to say
Yeah.
58.
Yeah. So, I mean, to watch him out there and he's hasn't slowed down. He's still a great grappler. And I mean, you had to have taken one of his nasty chops, correct?
Um, he, he didn't chop me as many times as people thought. He gave me a few. Um, he forearmed me more than he chopped me. I will
Okay.
say I chopped him as hard as I've chopped anybody. I swear. And he just laughed at me, which I kind of expected, but I tried. I promise I tried. Um, I will say there was one I was trying to control him. I had him in a clinch, and he broke, and he hit me with like a perfectly placed liver shot. If he had hit me like 10% harder, I would have either, like, this is not an exaggeration, I would have either blacked out or thrown up. Like, he didn't even hit me that hard. It was just so precise. It was like the Mortal Kombat X-ray where it goes and you see like the organ quiver. Like that was my liver. I was like, "Ooh." Like I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna throw up in this ring right now. But he got me good. Oh
Wow.
man, what a
Wow.
weird day
That just sounds awesome. Is that streaming
it
anywhere
was.
or that I could find it?
So yes, the full match is on YouTube on Immortal Championship Wrestling YouTube. If you search Mike Skyros versus Minoru Suzuki, you'll find it. If you have IWTV, you can also find it through there. But the
Okay.
match in full is available on YouTube.
I have both of those, so I'll make sure
Yep.
to watch it. So, also, I want to know about working for Pro Wrestling Grind, which I think is a product that, to me, it's a very good product, and it has. Are they still running? They're still running, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen
Uh,
I haven't. I've been kind of out of the loop on certain things, but I think it's just a very promising product as well.
yeah. Pro Wrestling Grind has been a real. I'm very thankful for them, and I'll get
Hmm.
into that in a second. But what I think makes
Sure.
Pro Wrestling Grind awesome is they have an identity
Hmm.
from their color scheme, their entranceway, their ring, the type of talent they use, and the matches that people have on those shows, the crowd. We really have our own thing going there, and a lot of times I don't like saying "our," but I feel as though I am a part of Pro Wrestling Grind strongly. I'm very much Team Pro Wrestling Grind. I consider that my home base. And Pro Wrestling Grind, it was somewhere I wanted to be for a very long time. I tried to get on there, and uh, they they gave me a shot, and it didn't work out. I tried to go in there, and I tried to endear myself to the fans as a good guy. The fans didn't want to cheer for me, and I tried a few matches, and they just didn't cheer for me. So eventually I had to take things into my own hand. I cracked Logan Black with a chair, and I'm like, okay, if you guys don't want to like me, I'll make sure if you hate me, I'll give you something to hate. And I became the most hated guy there, and it's been somewhere where I've been able to really just try different things, really be my full self, and it's a good group of people there too. I really consider a lot of the people that I work with at Pro Wrestling Brand to be very solid people in my life. So I'm extremely thankful, and I'm glad they gave me a shot.
I find it, like you said, it's they have a very unique identity. That entranceway, I
Yeah,
thought, is very cool. Like they invest in their product, which a lot of companies don't
yeah,
necessarily have the money to invest in their product and make it look like such a product. It was, that entranceway that you mentioned. It's very unique and very cool. You know what I mean? The color scheme I really like a lot. I really like the name because it's kind of original. You know what I mean? It's not very generic sounding,
yeah.
and it's a good company. I think it's got a lot of promise to do. They're on what? How often do they run? I'm trying to remember.
They run monthly, so our next
Monthly.
event is August 30th at
Okay.
the RPM Fest.
Okay. And you can find them on IWTV, all the events, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I want to go back to BST for 1 minute. So
Yep.
recently in June 20th, you worked for BST. You worked in the Big Jim Memorial Royal Rumble match,
I
excuse me.
did.
And Big Jim obviously was a great guy that worked around here, that passed away a few years ago. And
Yeah.
annually they do this match. It's a tribute match to him. What was it like taking part of this match? Okay. And then second, did you know Jim well?
Yeah. It was very cool to be asked to be a part of that match. I went out there with no ego. I mean, I'll be honest, there are some matches I go into with a little bit of ego, which I think every wrestler should have that serves them. But that
Right.
match I went out with, my only goal is to, if I'm gonna be a ham, if I'm gonna light someone up with a chop or a big clothesline, like Jim used to do, I'm gonna give these people their money's worth. And I was in there a while too. I came in at I want to say number 3 or 4, and I lasted almost until the end, till that damn Andy Brown threw me out. But
And
uh,
Andy Brown.
I
Yeah.
just, we had a really good crowd that night, and
Hmm.
we really entertained the fans. Battle royals can be a mixed bag, and
Right.
as can rumbles, but I thought we did a good job of giving the people something to sink their teeth into. In terms of Jim, man, I knock on wood. I'm very fortunate that I'm not a person that has suffered a ton of loss close to me in my life. And Jim was not someone I talked to every day, but
Hmm.
Jim was someone I always spoke to. We were on the cards together. He was always someone that was kind and was candid with me, and I could have conversations about real life stuff with. Man, it hit me really hard when he passed. My voice is even cracking a little bit now talking about it, but he's someone who is just a genuinely good-hearted person. I really miss having him around, and it was shocking because I was on an event where I believe UFO wrestling like 3 or 4 days before he passed,
Hmm.
and I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, I mean, I remember I was at work and I just left work. Like I wasn't there just I was so bewildered and like just struck to the heart by that I don't know, it killed me. But I miss that
Yeah.
dude. A lot of positive thoughts when it comes to that dude, and anything I can do to help keep his name alive, I'm really privileged to do so.
We had the mutual love for punk rock. Obviously, he was in a punk rock band, and I kind of
Yep.
came through the punk rock scene in New Haven, Connecticut in the 90s, 80s, and 90s and stuff. So we had a bunch of mutual friends that were not wrestling friends. So it was always cool to see him. And then he always one of those guys that went through the crowd to see if he saw you across the room just to say hello. And we'd always talk about stuff or pick up what new punk records we bought, whatever. You know what I mean? It was kind of cool. We had that um, mutual love for something that other than wrestling. You know what I mean? So it was cool to sit there and talk to him about that stuff. He was just a really good guy. As far as
Yeah.
finding out how he passed, I was actually on a podcast with Big Daddy, and when Mario called him and interrupted the to tell him, so we found out literally firsthand, like right then, and we just finished up what we were doing. It was very kind of somber at the time,
Yeah.
from there just for the next few minutes. And that was kind of crappy, but he's definitely a missed person.
Yeah, man.
Obviously there's people like BST keeping his name alive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Ah,
terrible.
yeah. Let me ask you something. I've noticed you've had several parts of these as part of your career. Your thoughts on intergender wrestling?
Intergender wrestling. So I'll state this. There are some people that will never accept it, no matter what the quality or the story of intergender wrestling is.
Hmm.
That's their prerogative. If you don't like it, don't buy a ticket. But I think, like any other match, it's a matchup thing. So I've wrestled women who were bigger and stronger than me. I've wrestled women who were tiny. I've wrestled women with martial arts backgrounds. It's If you are a good professional wrestler, you will make it entertaining for the audience.
Right.
I I try to treat them like I would treat any other opponent. If we step in the ring, we are not a man and a woman. We are two wrestlers. And when it comes to that, though, it's undeniable that people pay attention to those matches in a different way. Not all of it's positive, but there are certainly extra eyes on there. A couple of the matches that are like my most viewed matches ever are like there's a 6-man tag and it's like there's a woman on the other team, and it's just a lot of random people just got a hold of that match. But I think it's like anybody, you just figure out what makes sense in terms of the matchup, and you utilize that to take the audience on a ride.
Right. Okay. I only asked because I saw this. I've saw them announced in your history over the time, and came across them going through some notes. And
Yeah.
I'll be the first one to admit I'm not the world's biggest fan when it comes to that. And going back to Harry's been trying to convince me otherwise for the last couple of years, and that causes where he ruffles my feathers, where he's the pain in the ass. That so
Yeah.
I'm not, and I noticed that you've wrestled some of the women that you wrestled are fantastic professional wrestlers. You know what I mean? I've had a
Yep.
chance to work with a number of them on occasion, announce their matches, and it's just to me, I think it really depends on the situation. And I was a big fan of say China when she was wrestling,
Yeah.
watching her wrestle Jeff Jarrett. To me, that was kind of an acceptable thing because she was fucking bigger than Jeff Jarrett. So you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but you wrestled Ella Valentine, and I've had the opportunity to work with her, and she's quite the exceptional performer, I think. So,
Yes.
I'm gonna have to check that one out and see how it goes. But I've been kind of easing up on my disdain
Yeah.
for stuff like that over time because
Yeah.
I'm very old school and traditional. Like I said, I grew up in the '80s, and
Sure.
you know what I mean. I collect a lot of territory videos and stuff like that, and that's what I love. But and this also
Yeah.
goes back to professional wrestling. There's something for everybody. Not everybody's gonna like
Yeah.
everything on the show, and wrestling is a variety show. I've spoke about that with like Marcel Williams another time. It's always a variety show. There's each show. There's
Yes.
got to be a little bit of everything on each show.
Yes. And like when it comes to that type of stuff too, you are very much entitled to your opinion. I don't judge you for that. And I'm not one of
Right.
those people that thinks you should be dragged out in the street and stoned just because intergender wrestling is not your favorite thing in the world. It's
Right.
not for you. I disagree, but that's okay. Everyone likes I love the flavors of ice cream argument. I'm not gonna berate you because you really like strawberry ice cream and I really like chocolate ice cream.
Right.
We'll get two different ice cream cones. It'll be fine.
Yeah. No, and it's just one of those things, and like I said, it's not for everybody. I'm not going to say that
Yeah.
I hate you for wrestling a woman, nothing like that. I still like you. You know what I mean? It's just it's not my bag.
Appreciate it.
you know,
It's okay. It's okay.
it's sometimes it's just like I can't believe this is happening. It turns into something like that. You know what I mean? But I've been pleasantly surprised. Also, a number of occasions while watching these matches, we're like, all right, that was pretty good. But like but also some of them are unrealistic. If you go back and watch TNA, Tessa Blanchard beating Brian Cage, I don't think that's a very possible thing. The way that Brian will tower over Tessa, you know what I mean? I'm just using that match as an example, as people
I
may
get what
know
you're
that
saying.
match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So That's just my opinion. So
It's okay. You're entitled to your opinion.
no, I just wanted to ask you about that because I know some people
Yeah.
really like it. Some people will. Some people absolutely love it. Think it's the greatest thing on earth as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. So, is there any unique matches that you had over the years that you any kind of unique gimmick matches, I guess you could say, that you could say stand out?
Yeah. I had a match for a promotion called CFU that is Combat Fights Unlimited that runs out of the Philadelphia area,
Okay.
and they promote mixed martial arts rules for wrestling matches. So I was the
So,
champion,
would you say similar to like maybe Bloodsport or something like that? Like kind of like that, or
kind of. So
okay,
I'll explain. So I was champion of a promotion called the High Tension Wrestling Network,
okay,
and it was kind of an over. I don't want to say like the NWA, but it contained a few different promotions within it. One of the
okay,
promotions that it helped promote was CFU, and they ran an event during WrestleMania week in Philadelphia for WrestleMania 40, and I saw they were running. I was like, "Hey, can I be a part of that?" Like, I'm I am not a fighter. I am not a mixed martial artist. I am someone who has been really fortunate to train with some jiu-jitsu guys, to train with some boxing guys, and I've dabbled a little bit. That's it. But I wanted to see how I would do. So they put there's me and this guy named Fun God Jordan, and shout out to him because he does have a lot more mixed martial arts experience. He has some Muay Thai and some jiu-jitsu experience, and I leaned on him super heavily in that match. But we had three, I believe there's three 5 minute rounds, which
okay.
is either 3 or 5 minute rounds. Still a very long round.
Yeah.
But I had UFC style gloves on. I had black trunks. I had my kick pads. I had my wrestling shoes. Very stripped down appearance, and we did the thing. Like I was throwing combinations. I was passing guard. I was putting chokes and wrist locks and knee bars on, and I was getting jabbed in the face. It was wild. It was you know, if you go back and watch it, is it my best match? Probably not because it was so far out of my wheelhouse. But I'm really happy I got to do it. It was something, and I'll tell you what, MMA is hard because I was gassed so quickly. Like I was out there, I was throwing jabs, I was throwing kicks, I was checking kicks, and I was like, oh my god, I'm tired. We got to be close. And like 30 seconds had passed. So I'm like, I'm going to the ground. I'm going to hang out here for a little bit. Um, that's one that definitely stands out. Last year, I had my very first cage match, and that was really cool because I think the cage match is the the best way to really settle something between two people. If you want to settle something between two people, you want to do it right, put them in a cage. And
The
we had
ultimate,
the
the ultimate blow off, right?
I agree.
Classically, yeah, yeah.
Yes. And we had a big blue cage. It was very WrestleMania 2 flavored, uh, big bars, and man, for my first occasion, I'm in a tag team called Team Friendship with my buddy Adam Stone that I trained with, and there's a group called Edge of Hope that wrestles at a lot of upstate New York promotions. We had been we'd been beefing for probably 8 months or so, and we had had a couple matches back and forth for the tag titles, but there was always outside interference. There was always some sort of DQ, some sort of hijinks going on. How do we solve this problem? We build a cage, we put them inside it, and we see who comes out the winner. And we had it about 30 minutes from Syracuse, 30 minutes east of Syracuse. The crowd was with us. They were ready to see the cage match. And all my years of watching classic cage matches like Brett and Owen had really like set me up for that. So that was cool. I'll give you a third stipulation as well.
Sure.
A couple of years ago, there's a promotion called ESW that runs out of Buffalo.
Okay.
And when you think of Buffalo sports and you think of the Buffalo Bills, what are some things that come to mind?
I don't know. I can't think. Buffalo
So
sports.
if you,
There's only football and hockey up there, right?
yes. So have you ever seen those clips of the fans will be tailgating the parking lot and they'll throw
Well,
each other
yeah,
through the plastic tables?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was booked in a Buffalo tables match in Buffalo, and that is the first and I think only time I've ever been booked in that. That was wild because it was also my first tables match of any kind, and I wore my finest New England Patriots Rob Gronkowski jersey during this match. I did every football adjacent and 3-point stance move I could think of. I had the time of my life. Uh, Plastic table, weird feeling. Uh, Not the most painful thing, not the least painful thing, just very strange because a normal table, when you go through it, it kind of explodes and you slam onto the mat. The Buffalo
Yeah,
table, you hit and it's more solid, but then it just kind of goes. Hmm. So it's
yeah.
those are some weird ones I've had.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Very, very interesting. We got a few more minutes, and then and
yeah,
then we're gonna wrap it up. So I'm having a great time, and I think that I'm glad that we can finally get this done. And
me too.
love to have you back in the future, seriously, because I'm always
Absolutely.
looking for people to do. But I want to ask you, what do you have coming up in the coming weeks?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate that a lot of the stuff that I've had this year has really built up well, and so I will talk about next Saturday, July 19th. I have a championship match for the heavyweight championship at Immortal Championship Wrestling. So there's a gentleman named Garrett Holiday who has wrestled a little bit in New England. He's someone I considered a very close friend. I was the I was the head officiant at his wedding. I literally married him and his wife.
Oh wow!
And back in April, he thought it was a good idea. I beat Richard Holiday in my championship match, which was not an easy match because he's one of the best wrestlers out there on the independents.
Yep.
Uh, I'm getting jumped by a couple people. Garrett Holiday slides in. Oh, cool. My friend has my back. No. Clocks me with a belt, cashes in his briefcase, takes the championship from me. You know what? All right, man.
Sure.
That's pretty low. We get to next month's show. I have my match. I win. Him and his boys are jumping another one of the guys on the roster. I slide in the ring. A lot of people who haven't seen me until now, they're used to me having a little bit different haircut, right? I rocked a braid for 7 years. That was until two of Garrett's goons grabbed me and they chopped my braid right in the middle of the ring. So as you might assume, I'm not real happy with Garrett Holiday right now.
Wow.
So on the 19th, I get the chance to not only take his championship that he stole from me, but I get to kick his ass a little bit or a lot bit along the way. And if any of his boys show up, I got a little bit of an insurance policy too. So I've really been looking forward to getting revenge. Rome, New York, 45 minutes from my house. I get the chance to do that. So that's the
Wow.
first one.
Yep.
Yeah. Uh, I have Green Mountain Wrestling coming up. Now, Green Mountain Wrestling just announced that they will be doing a joint show with Game Changer Wrestling GCW in November.
I saw.
I'm not
Yeah.
confirmed whether I'm on that show or not. What I will say is this. A lot of people, including myself, have opinions about GCW, but
Hmm.
they're the biggest independent in the world right now. Undisputed. Biggest
Massive.
independent in the world.
Yeah.
If you want to get seen on the independents, that's the place to get seen. So I'm in the middle of an undefeated streak at Green Mountain Wrestling, and I'm in the middle of a championship tournament. So if I keep winning until November, which I have a chance on July 18th, next Friday, and I have a chance on July 27th or 26th, the weekend after. I think I'll put myself in a pretty good position to be on that GCW show and raise my profile even more. And
Absolutely.
then obviously Pro Wrestling Grind. I I don't really know where I go at Pro Wrestling Grind for now. I was champion. I was undefeated for about 2 years. I lost the belt to Perry Von Vicious. I get a matchup with their hero, Jay Freddy. I lose to Jay Freddy. That's fine. I get another match, try to get my momentum back with a guy named Don Freeze, who I've talked about a little bit earlier. I helped train him. I think the world of him. Uh, one of my few friends out in wrestling outside of the ring.
Right.
He beats me. Where do I go from here? I'm not sure, but I got to go somewhere. So those are a couple you can look at for me. There is I spoke about 2CW earlier. There is a 2CW show that is happening in the next few months that they have not announced yet that I'm very much looking forward to. And obviously, I'm looking forward to, I believe I'll be back at Blood, Sweat, and Tears at least once before the end of the year. I would love to come back to Test of Strength, and I have a few more matches. I have One Up Wrestling coming up on August 9th. The guy I mentioned earlier named David Cole, so I helped train. He has been calling me out for the past 8 months. I haven't been able to make any of the One Up Wrestling shows. Me and him, our schedules finally aligned. We get to have our one-on-one match, and I think that's going to be the best match that the One Up Wrestling audience has ever seen.
Okay. You sound very busy, and each and every one of those sounds awesome. And I will be at that BST show. I've already made plans to be there. It's September 19th, I believe. Correct? I believe in Bridgeport, Connecticut, Foolproof Brewing. We'll talk about it a million times before it actually happens. So,
yes,
tell everybody rather where you could be found. And you got merchandise. I know you got merchandise. You still have those trading cards. I still have mine.
I do. I appreciate you buying those, by the way. So
I guess you could say I'm a mark for stuff like that. Like.
Well, I appreciate it. Merch. There are two ways to get merch from me. So I have a Pro Wrestling Tees store. If you go on prowrestlingtees.com/Mike Skyros, MikeSkyros, you'll find my Pro Wrestling Tees store. If I don't have a size you want, if there is an old design that you want, a lot of times it can be found there. If you see me at a show, I most likely have my merch with me. I travel with my merch. So I have shirts. I have a new design that I have. I have a new design that is dropping next week. And I still have hoodies. One of my older designs, I have 8x10s. I have trading cards. So I have a little bit of something for everybody. So you can definitely catch me selling merch at shows. You can get in my Pro Wrestling Tees store. And in terms of finding me, all my socials are at Mike Skyros, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, TikTok. I have a Discord channel for people that really want to keep up with me that is linked on those profiles. And if you are not a jerk, I will add you on Facebook.
Wow. I guess I got lucky. I'm not that. I mean, I'm a jerk.
You're pretty cool guy.
No, all right. Thank you. Thank you. Mike, I want to say thank you very much for doing this again. And I definitely want to do this again. Hopefully, maybe we can do it again before the end of the year.
Would love to.
All right, man. Thank you.